I woke up in her skin, staring at a ceiling that cost more than my entire life ever had. And the first thing I did was smash the antique vase on the nightstand because it looked just like the one she'd thrown at my head during our last meeting. Blood trickled from her cut palm, warm and foreign, but it felt right, like the universe handing me back a piece of myself on a silver platter. And then I laughed. A deep, throaty sound that echoed off the marble walls of this Park Avenue fortress. Because Victoria Hale had finally fucked up beyond repair, she'd swapped our bodies thinking she'd bury me forever. But now I was the one holding the keys to her kingdom, and I was going to burn it all down from the inside. It started 6 months ago, back when I was still Camila Ruiz, the invisible Latina fixer in the bowels of Hale Enterprises, the kind of company that built empires on the backs of people like me. Victoria was the queen bee, 42 going on eternal, with cheekbones sharp enough to cut glass and a smile that could sell ice to Eskimos in hell. She ran a tech conglomerate that specialized in neural implants, fancy brain chips for enhancing productivity, but everyone whispered about the black market side, the ones that wiped memories or planted suggestions. I knew because I'd been her ghostwriter, her errand girl, the one who cleaned up her messes. I typed the emails that ruined competitors, shredded the documents that could have landed her in federal prison. And once, just once, I'd taken the fall for her. That fall was for embezzling from the R&D slush fund, $2 million siphoned to fund her pet project. A prototype for consciousness transfer. She needed a test subject, someone disposable. And when the auditors came sniffing, she pinned it on me. Camila's been skimming, she'd purred in that boardroom, her eyes never meeting mine as the cuffs clicked around my wrists. I did 3 months in Rikers, the kind of hell that strips you down to bone and rage, while she toasted her innocence with champagne at the Met Gala. But here's the secret she never knew I held. I'd found the real ledger. The digital ghost of her transactions, hidden in an encrypted drive she'd asked me to dispose of. I'd copied it instead, stashed it in a cloud account under a fake name, my insurance policy against the day she'd turn on me. That day came sooner than I thought. The swap happened in her private lab, deep under the Hale Tower in Midtown. She'd lured me there with a bullshit offer. Help me test this, Camila, and I'll clear your record. A fresh start. I should have known better. Victoria didn't do fresh starts. She did erasures. The machine hummed like a swarm of angry bees. Electrodes kissing my temples, her face leering over me as the world dissolved into static. When I came to, it was her body on the cold slab, my old one slumped in the corner like discarded trash. Panic hit first, her manicured hands flailing, her designer blouse soaked in sweat that wasn't mine. But then clarity. Sharp as a switchblade, I was in the driver's seat now. I could feel her memories flickering at the edges. Like bad reception, flashes of board meetings, lovers' quarrels, the thrill of that first embezzled dollar. But my mind was still mine. Camila's fire and Victoria's ice queen shell. I didn't waste time. I bolted the lab door, smashed the control panel with a fire extinguisher until sparks flew and the alarms wailed. Her security detail, ex-Marines in ill-fitting suits, pounded on the steel. But I had her voice, her retinal scan, her goddamn life. Stand down, I barked into the intercom, channeling her Arctic tone. False alarm. Go back to your lattes. They scattered like roaches. And I dragged my old body, her in there now, groggy and cursing in my accent, to the service elevator. Dumped her in a maintenance closet, zip-tied her wrists with extension cords, and gagged her with a lab coat. Welcome to the real world, Vicky, I whispered, stroking my old cheek. This is what erasure feels like. By dawn, I was her. Poured myself into one of her power suits, a crimson sheath that hugged curves I'd only dreamed of, and strode into Hale Tower like I owned it. Because fuck me, I did. The lobby buzzed with sycophants, interns fetching oat milk cortados, execs in Brooks Brothers nodding like bobbleheads. Morning. Victoria, cooed her assistant, a vapid blonde named Jess who probably slept her way to the corner office. I flashed the smile that had closed billion-dollar deals and watched her melt. Up in the penthouse office, floor-to-ceiling views of the Hudson glittering like fool's gold, I locked the door and fired up her triple monitor setup. The empire unfolded before me, subsidiaries in AI, biotech, even a shady defense contract with the Pentagon for enhanced interrogation chips. But I wasn't here to play CEO. I was here to dismantle. First move, controversial as hell, but necessary. I called an emergency board meeting via encrypted video, her face serene on the screens as I leaned back in the leather throne. Gentlemen, ladies, I began, voice smooth as aged bourbon. We have a mole. Someone close. And it's time to cut the cancer out. Gasps rippled through the pixels. Old man Hargrove from finance choked on his cigar. I dropped the bomb, doctored footage from the lab cams, edited on the fly with her own software, showing me Camila in the act of sabotaging the prototype. She's been feeding intel to our competitors, I lied. Her eyes, my eyes, steely. Arrest her. Now. Warrants flew. SWAT teams mobilized. By noon, my old body was in a black site van, courtesy of her DOJ connections, en route to a hole deeper than Rikers.
Victoria Ale.
Trapped in a 5'2" frame with a juvie record, screaming my name. Poetic, right? But it was just the appetizer. As the days blurred into a haze of power plays, I started peeling back the layers of her life. Her apartment was a museum of conquests, Picassos looted from estates, a wine cellar stocked with bottles older than my abuela's rosary. I found the hidden safe behind a Rothko knockoff, passcode her dead mother's birthday. The one vulnerability she thought buried. Inside, blackmail files on senators, mistresses' NDAs, and the prototype schematics for the swap tech. Turns out, she'd tested it before, on a whistleblower named Elena, a biochemist who'd threatened to go public. Elena's body now housed a vegetable in a Connecticut nursing home, while Victoria's consciousness had danced free. The betrayal hit like vertigo. She'd done this to others. Erased lives like deleting emails. All to protect her throne. And I'd been next because I knew too much. The ledger. The slush fund. The human trials buried in offshore accounts. Nights were the worst. I'd stand at her balcony railing, wind whipping her hair, staring at the city that chewed up dreamers like me and spat out husks. Flashbacks clawed in, Riker's fluorescent buzz. The Schenk fight in the showers where I'd earned my Loco Cami scars. The letters from my little brother Manny, begging for tuition money I couldn't send. Victoria's memories bled through too. Daddy issues with a Wall Street wolf who called her the disappointment, the coke-fueled all-nighters, scripting her rise. I hated her, but in quiet moments, I pitied the monster she'd become. Pity made me weak, though, so I'd pour a Macallan neat and plot. The revenge wasn't just personal, it was biblical. I'd make her watch her world crumble, brick by blood-soaked brick. Week 2. I escalated. Hacked her personal server, child's play with a backdoor I'd planted years ago as her loyal aide, and leaked snippets to the press. Anonymous drops to the Times. Hale Enterprises funds illegal neural experiments. Stocks dipped 5%. Whispers of SEC probes. Her board panicked, calling for her head, but I played the victim card. Tearful interviews on CNBC where I vowed transparency. Behind the scenes, I funneled cash to activists, groups like the ones I'd volunteered with in the Bronx, fighting gentrification with spray cans and sit-ins. They hit Hale Properties hard. Protests at the Chelsea HQ. Graffiti on the Silicon Alley facade screaming, "Erase the elite." Controversial? Hell yes. Cops in riot gear kettling kids half my age. Headlines blasting CEO Victoria Hale's war on the poor. But it felt like justice. Raw and roaring. Deeper in, I uncovered the real rot. The swap tech wasn't just a toy, it was her endgame. Contracts with Big Pharma for personality uploads to the ultra-rich, dying billionaires jumping into fresh, young hosts. She'd lined up donors, trafficked migrants, foster kids, anyone off the grid. My stomach turned reading the manifests, names like ghosts. One file hit home, Manny's school records. Flagged for recruitment. She'd targeted him, my baby brother, because I disappointed her in lockup by not cracking. The rage ignited something primal. I decided then, no half measures. I'd expose it all, but not before twisting the knife. The first real controversial call came at a gala for the Whitney, black tie, diamonds dripping like sweat. I arrived as Victoria, arm candy a rented escort who thought he was schmoozing the real deal. Across the room, Hargrove leered, his hand on a 20-year-old intern's waist. I cornered him in the coat check. Her perfume, Chanel no.
5.
Cloying, masking the venom. You knew about the trials, I hissed, close enough to smell his bourbon breath. Sign this. A confession. Typed on my phone, admitting complicity in the embezzlement. He laughed, big mistake. I kneed him in the balls. Old Riker's trick. And as he wheezed, I snapped pics of his face crumpling. Or the world sees you assaulting me. Blackmail. Pure and simple. He signed, tears streaming. By morning, he was resigning with a fat severance. His shares dumped to me at fire sale prices. One down. But cracks formed. Her body rebelled, migraines from the neural residue, flashes of her panic in my old skin. Dreams where I was the ghost, pounding on glass as she wore my face to freedom. And Jess, that assistant, started side-eyeing me. You seem different.
Vic.
Hungrier. I played it off with migraines, but paranoia gnawed. What if the swap wasn't permanent? What if she broke free? I doubled security on the black site, paid off the guards with her slush fund. Still, doubt whispered. Was I becoming her? The power tasted sweet, but it stuck in my throat like ash. As File 1 closed, the empire teetered. Stocks at 80%. Lawsuits piling like snow in January. I stood in her office, USB in hand, the ledger, my ace, and whispered to the empty room. Your move.
Camila. No, mine.
The hook was set, now to reel in the monster. The penthouse felt like a cage by month 2. All that glass and steel mocking me with views of a freedom I'd never tasted in this skin. I'd started sleeping with a Beretta under the pillow, her pistol, engraved with VH. Conquers all, because nightmares weren't the only threat. Victoria's consciousness might be clawing at the edges of my old body, but her allies were ghosts in the machine, loyalists sniffing for weakness. I made my second big call that week. Seduce the enemy. Enter Marcus Hale, her estranged brother. The black sheep who'd bolted to Silicon Valley after Daddy cut him out of the will. He was building a rival firm, poaching her talent. And rumor had it he knew about the swap tech, had helped design it before the family feud. I reached out via her private jet, landing in Palo Alto under a sky so blue it hurt, her Louboutins sinking into the manicured lawns of his compound. Marcus was the anti-Victoria, rumpled tease, a beard that screamed genius recluse, eyes like chipped jade that saw through bullshit. Dinner at his modernist ranch, sustainable everything, kale salads that tasted like regret. He eyed me over rimless glasses. To what do I owe the pleasure?
Cease.
Come to bury the hatchet, or just the body? I laughed, her husky timbre wrapping around him like smoke, and leaned in, letting the neckline of her silk blouse do the talking. Maybe both. But first, truth. Wine flowed. Secret spilled. He admitted it. The prototype was his baby, twisted by her into a weapon. You erased Elena, he said, voice cracking. For what? Immortality. I played the remorse card. Tears, fake but stinging, tracking mascara down her porcelain cheeks. I was wrong. Help me fix it. By dessert, we were in his bed, sheets tangled like neural nets, his hands mapping territory I'd never claimed. Controversial? Sleeping with the enemy to steal his soul? In the gray dawn, as he snored, I lifted his phone, passcode his dog's birthday. Predictable, and downloaded everything. Blueprints, donor lists, even voice memos of Victoria confessing kills. Betrayal twice over. Because Marcus thought he was redeeming his sister, not arming her destroyer. Back in New York, I integrated it all into the master file. The USB, now a nuclear warhead. But power corrupts, they say. And it started seeping in. I'd catch myself in mirrors, adjusting her posture, practicing her sneer. At board meetings, I'd crush dissent with her precision, firing VPs who'd underperformed since the leaks, really anyone who'd ever slighted me as Camila. One was Raj, the IT guy who'd called me the spick and turn back in 22. You're out, I said, her finger jabbing like a stiletto. Non-compete for life, he begged. Family photos on his phone, kids in braces, wife in a sari. I paused, old me screaming to stop, but her voice purred. Next, the severance was generous, but the message clear. Cross Victoria. Pay eternal. Was it revenge or just her poison? The line blurred, and I hated the thrill. The climax brewed in D.C. A schmooze fest with senators at the Hay Adams, lobbyists swirling like sharks in tuxes. Victoria's empire hinged on that defense contract, neural chips for interrogation enhancement, code for torture tech. I was there to seal it, champagne flute in her manicured grip, when my phone buzzed, a black site alert. Guards down. Inmate escaped. My blood, hers iced. She was out. In my body, loose in the wilds of America, with nothing but rage and a subway map. I cut the gala short, barking orders to her network, private eyes, facial rec hacks, even a whisper to IC about undocumented activity. Controversial as sin, profiling my own blood, but she wasn't me anymore. She was the invader. The hunt turned the city into a pressure cooker. Sightings popped, a woman matching my old description in a Queens bodega, buying burner phones, another in Harlem, flashing a fake ID at a pawn shop. I holed up in the penthouse, screens alive with feeds, Paranoia dialing to 11. Jess quit that night. You're not her. Whoever you are, after catching me muttering in Spanish. I let her go with a golden parachute, but not before scrubbing her drives. Alone, I dove into the memories, forcing the bleed. Victoria's childhood, Daddy's belt leaving welts, Mommy's pills washing it down. The betrayal crystallized. She'd swapped us because I reminded her of that weakness, the help she'd risen above. I'd borne her crime to protect her, and she'd repay with oblivion. Revenge peaked at the Empire State. Tourist trap turned trap. Intel pinned her there, blending with the crowds in my ratty hoodie. I went alone, her town car idling blocks away, slipping through the throngs like a specter in Chanel. Up the elevators, heart hammering in her ribcage. I spotted me at the observatory, pressed to the rail. City sprawl below like a conquered map. She turned, my face twisted in fury, eyes wild. You bitch, she snarled in my voice. Give it back. We grappled, her small hands clawing, me pinning her with superior leverage. Wind howled, tourists oblivious. You took everything, I growled. Now watch it burn. I pulled the USB, dangling it over the edge. This ends your game. The ledger, the trials, all out unless you confess. She lunged. We teetered, controversial flash. Push her.
End it quick?
No cameras up here. Just the abyss. But old Camila flinched. I hauled her back, zip-tying her wrists with a scarf from my purse.
Not yet.
You see it fall first. Dragged her down. Into the car. To a warehouse in Red Hook where her own goons once disposed of problems. Chained her to a chair amid rust and rats, shining a bare bulb on my old face. Tell me why, I demanded. She spat. Because you're nothing. A glitch I fixed. Lies crumbled under hours of interrogation, her voice cracking. Admitting Elena. The bribes. The fear of fading. It wasn't just power, it was terror of the void. As the sun rose over the Gowanus, I prepped the drop, files to WikiLeaks, timed for peak scandal. But doubt gnawed. Destroy her.
And what of me?
Her body aging. No way back. Manny called then, voice trembling. Sis? Some lady came to the dorm, asking questions. Her reach. Even caged. I decided. Full exposure.
No merci.
But as I hit send on the leak, alarms blared. Warehouse breach. Her loyalists.
Tipped somehow.
Gunfire echoed. Shadows swarming. I fought dirty, heels as weapons. Chair leg cracking a knee, but numbers won.
Pinned.
Barrel to temple. One sneered. Boss says hi. Her. Still pulling strings from chains. Escape was a blur. A guard's radio crackling distraction. Me bolting into the fog. Bloodied but breathing. Back to the tower. I barricaded. Screens showing the fallout. Stocks cratering 40%. Feds raiding labs. Her empire smoked. But she was free again. Ghost in my shell. And the twist loomed. I collapsed on her silk sheets, whispering, not done yet. Vicky. The war was personal now. Body against soul. Week 5 post-escape. And New York pulsed like a bruise. Sirens for hail raids. Headlines screaming, tech titans torture empire expose. I was a phantom in her penthouse. Blinds drawn against paparazzi drones buzzing like vengeful wasps. The leak had worked too well. Congressional hearings subpoenaed Victoria, her face mine, plastered on CNN as the villain du jour. Protests swelled. From Wall Street to Washington Square. Chants of "Erase Hail" echoing my old Bronx block. Manny was safe. Whisked to a safe house in Jersey with a trust fund I'd siphoned. First selfless act in this skin. But victory tasted hollow. She was still out there, puppeteering from shadows. And every mirror mocked the thief I'd become. The controversial pivot came unbidden. A encrypted message pinged her. My secure line, coordinates for a meet. Neutral ground in the derelict Brooklyn Navy Yard. Come alone, or the kid gets it. Manny.
Bait.
But I swallowed it, arming up with her Glock and a vial of prototype sedative from the lab stash. Dusk fell heavy. Gulls crying over oily waves as I picked my way through chain link and craters. She waited in a gutted warehouse, my body silhouetted against sodium lights. Flanked by two goons, ex-cons with necks like tree trunks. Camila, she drawled in my timbre. A mockery that twisted my gut. Or should I say, imposter? You wear me well. But it's fraying. We circled like prize fighters. Her eyes, my eyes, gleaming with that hale cunning. You think you won? The files are out. But backups exist. I can rebuild.
Lies.
But her confidence chilled. The goons shifted, and I fired first, pop pop, one down clutching his thigh, the other diving for cover. The chaos erupted, ricochets pinging off girders, her scrambling for a dropped piece. I tackled her, bodies slamming concrete, fists flying. You stole my life, I roared, her nails raking her cheek. And you stole mine, she countered, knee to groin that buckled me. We rolled, breaths ragged, until I pinned her, gun to temple. Confess. On video. Everything. She laughed, bloodied lips splitting wider. And then, you can't stay me forever. The swap reverses in 6 months, neural decay. You'll wither in that shell. Twist like a gut punch. It was temporary. Her plan all along. Erase me long enough to tie loose ends, then reclaim her throne. Me a vegetable in my husk. Rage boiled. But something cracked. Flashes. Her memories surging. Not as enemy, but mirror. Daddy's abuse. The boardroom rapes she buried with NDAs. The pills that numbed it all. I'd borne her embezzlement. But she'd borne worse, a lifetime of proving she wasn't weak. We could have been allies, she wheezed. Sisters in the grind. The decision hung. Heavier than the Glock. Controversial to the core. Mercy or annihilation. Sirens wailed distant. Cops closing in from an anonymous tip I'd planted pre-meet. Her goon groaned. Radio crackling for backup. Time bled. I could have pulled the trigger, ended the cycle, but old Camila, the fixer, not the destroyer, whispered no. Instead, I injected the sedative, her eyes glazing as she slumped. Dragged her to the water's edge, stripped the hoodie, bound her tight. Swim or sink.
Vicky.
Your choice. Pushed her into the brackish tide, watching my old body thrash. Then still. Flotation kicked in. She'd wash up. Amnesiac, maybe. A Jane Doe with no empire to claim. But the real twist unfurled at dawn. Back in the tower as feds hammered the doors. Her confession, staged on my phone. Her voice spilling sins under duress, uploaded live to every newsfeed. Empire imploded. Arrests cascading. Subsidiaries seized. Her name toxic as Chernobyl. I faced the suits in her lobby. Hands up. Her smile serene. Take me in. I surrender. Interrogation rooms smelled like stale coffee and regret. But I spun the tale. Victoria, haunted by guilt, had faked her own downfall to atone. Body double for the swap? A hoax to expose the tech's dangers. They bought it, partly because the evidence sang my tune. Plea deal. Reduced sentence. Whistleblower status. 6 months in minimum security. Then witness protection. Out in the world again. I shed her like snakeskin. Dyed hair black. Contacts brown. A new ID as Elena Vasquez. Nod to the ghost she'd erased. Manny met me in a Jersey diner. Hugs fierce. No questions. You're back,
Sis.
whatever happened. I nodded. Throat tight. The ending? Debatable as hell. Her empire dust. Justice served cold. But me? Forever changed. Echoes of her ambition fueling night classes in coding. A startup brewing for ethical neural aids, helping, not harming. Happy? In fragments. Tragic? If you count the lives I bent, including mine. Some say I became the monster, others, the savior.
Me?
I drive past Hale Tower's sold sign, now condos for the 1%, and flip at the bird. She tried to erase me, but secrets endure. And in America, that's the real empire, the one built on grudges that never die. Epilogue whispers. Last I heard, a woman matching my old face washed up in Staten Island, rambling about stolen souls. Committed, they say, to Bellevue. I send anonymous care packages, toys for the ward. Maybe. Or maybe not. Revenge isn't clean, it's the stain that lingers, marking you queen or corpse. Choose your poison.